Hello, welcome to Nature Storytime with Formar. Today we're going to be reading At Grandpa's Sugar Bush, which is written by Margaret Carney and illustrated by Janet Wilson. During spring school break, I go to my grandpa's farm. He's working in the sugar bush and needs my help. Warm weather in February made a hard crust on the deep snow. We haul sap buckets and spiles to the sugar bush on sleds. In the fresh snow that fell overnight, we see fox tracks and weasel tracks. Red squirrels scold us from the spruce trees on our way into the bush. A flock of evening grosbeaks flies over. Grandpa says the funny yank yank we hear is made by white-breasted nuthatches getting ready to nest in a crack in a big old maple tree. We find the holes the pileated woodpeckers are making, and we often hear them drumming. Many of the sugar maples are more than 100 years old. Grandpa knows every tree in the bush, just like his dad did. Someday I will too. Grandpa drills a hole in the first maple tree on the southeast side. The bright spring sun warms that side first. I clean out the wood shavings with a twig. We put in a spile and tap it gently with a hammer. It seems to take forever, but finally a big drop of sap forms at the tip of the spile. I catch it on my tongue and taste its sweetness. We hang a sap bucket from the spile and cover it with a lid. For a while we can hear the plink, plink of sap dripping into the bottom of the bucket. Grandpa says the first robin always sings on the day the sap starts to run. After lunch, the sun grows warm and the snow becomes soft. Grandpa's feet leave deep holes in the snow. Mine leave little holes. Snow fleas gather in our footprints. They're another sign of spring, Grandpa says. Every day we collect the sap, carrying it to big barrels near the boiling place. Last October, Grandpa felled dead trees, then cut and split them into firewood. I helped him haul and pile it. Grandpa digs snow out of the boiling place, and I bring him pieces of stovepipe. When everything is ready and the sap barrels are full, we start the fire. First smoke, then heat waves rise up the chimney. Soon, steam from the sap pan will smell sweet and mapley. Whenever we're thirsty, we cool boiling sap in the snow and drink it. It gets sweeter and sweeter and stickier. We keep adding sap to the boiling pan. If it boils dry, the syrup will burn. Grandpa skims off the foam with a large tin spoon full of holes. Every hour he builds up the fire in a long tunnel under the sap pan. I ask him to let me put the first stick on the bed of glowing red coals. The heat makes my face tingle. Grandpa goes back to the sugar bush after supper, but I go to bed. Working in the bush makes you hungry and very tired. One night he lets me come along. A big sugar moon lights our path. Finally, the syrup is ready. It drips from the ladle in a sheet. Grandpa carefully draws the sap pan off the fire onto green poles we popped up on forked sticks. I help him strain the syrup through a cloth to remove bits of dirt and ash. Then we get to clean the pan. We scrape the thick, sticky syrup from the bottom with wooden spoons Grandpa carved out of cedar. It's yummy! We pour the warm syrup into old cream cans. When it's cool, we haul the cans out of the bush, onto the sled, and back to the farmhouse. The next morning, we have maple syrup and pancakes for breakfast. Grandma says Grandpa and I make the tastiest syrup in the country. I think it's the best in the whole world. All right, and now that we've enjoyed our story, we're going to make our own maple tree to tap syrup from. So you're going to need either a towel roll or toilet paper rolls, two of them if you're using toilet paper rolls, some scissors, some tape, some brown paint, paintbrush, a cap from something to make our little bucket, some aluminum foil to make it look like a tin bucket, and a surface that you can paint on without getting things too messy. So you're going to start by taping together your toilet paper rolls. So again, if you're using a towel roll, you won't need to tape it together, but this is what I could find, so we're going to tape it together as best we can. Next, we're going to paint it so that it starts to look, like a real tree, like real tree bark. And try to use as thin of a coat as possible. That way it can dry quicker than it would if you add tons and tons of paint. Alright, so while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to cover our little cap so that we can make our bucket. You're just going to need a little bit of aluminum foil. I actually pulled way too much. And again, your little bucket can be made out of anything. You can see that this is from an old glue stick that kind of the glue got stuck in there. But yours can be made out of anything. I'm just going to wrap that aluminum foil around our cap to turn it into a tin bucket. Now, once your tube is all dry, you are going to start cutting strips into the top of your tube, and this is going to start looking like branches coming off of our tree. So you're going to cut probably about halfway down, quarter of the way down, your choice on how long you want to make those branches. Next, we're going to start bending our little branches so that they start looking more realistic. So I kind of alternate, one low, one high, but really however you want to bend them to make it look like curvy branches. Now, all that's left is to attach our little bucket onto our tree. So I just used tape. It might work easier with glue, but tape is what I had. And I started up kind of high on the tree, and then I remembered when you're tapping a maple tree, you need to put your spile at eye level, so I moved it down a little bit. And now it's all done.